This week on Wookie Drives, I dive back into the Acura brand for the first time in nearly 6 years. And let's just say I feel much better about my video production and writing skills since that RSX video was released all those years ago. This week we look at the 1994 Acura Integra GSR and talk about the legend of the Integra.
Carefully upright. Volkswagen Group. Pontiac Transport. Pontiac Montana. Pontiac Transport Montana. Pontiac Montana SV6.
Truth be told, I don't really look back fondly on that RSX video. It was really early in my channel's history. I hadn't found my voice yet, so I was trying to be creative and funny and also derivative of other creators when I didn't really have any of the skills to back it up. And I cringe upon looking at a lot of those early videos as I feel they're not really representative of where I'm at now. I didn't have a proper routine set out for filming cars yet, as I thought it was completely feasible to film a car within my hour-long lunch break at work at the time. And the writing is just... yeah... it makes this video look almost professional in comparison. As a result, I've been wanting to redo around the first 20 of my videos, as I feel I haven't really done those cars and trucks justice in video form yet. While I don't have another RSX on hand today, what I do have is its direct predecessor, the third generation Integra, what many would consider their favorite sport compact car from Japan. Acura itself was the first of the Japanese premium brands to launch in the United States, beating out Lexus and Infiniti by several years. Basically, with the Japanese government imposing export restraints on Japanese cars exported to America, it was becoming more and more profitable to export their more premium offers to the United States. However, as Toyota had found out with the Cressida and the Crown, American buyers were still seeing Japanese brands as budget offerings. So to bypass this, Honda would create the Acura brand, because Americans are dumb and we often don't correlate cars being the same or from the same place because they have a fancy new name. See all of GM's rebadges. Its first car would also be a flagship, the Legend. Fantastic name for a car, by the way. As it would also be aimed to directly compete against Toyota's Crown and Nissan's Cedric and Gloria in Honda's home country of Japan. And all of this was co-developed with the struggling British automaker, Rover, which I covered in detail in my Sterling 827 SLI video. With the Legend hitting the ground running and being a big success, Acura's next car would be a sporty little compact car available in a couple of body styles, as well as sitting above the ubiquitous Civic in Honda's lineup. The Integra would replace the car that was never sold in North America, the Honda Quint. While the Quint was only available as a 5-door liftback, the Integra would also introduce a 4-door sedan and 3-door liftback coupe. And like the Big Brother Legend, the Integra would also be a smashing success. The Integra would see a second generation in 1989, and the third generation you see today in 1993. The third generation Honda/Acura Integra burst onto the scene with its achingly 90s quad headlights and its smoothed out styling. Gone were the wedge shapes of the 80s, in were the curves of the 90s. The styling was so striking that the Japanese buyers balked at the spider eyes, and soon a refresh would give this generation of Integra a more traditional face. However, American Integras would retain the spider eyes until the third generation Integra would bow out in favor of the RSX in 2001. Under the hood would be a couple of iterations of Honda's famous B engine. Most third-gen Integra models in the States got the 1.8-liter B18 B2 4-cylinder. GSR models like this particular GSR got the B18 C1 4-banger that produced 172 horsepower and 128 foot-pounds of torque. And the legendary Integra Type R that was only available for 4 model years that produced 195 horsepower and 130 foot-pounds of torque. European models got a holdover D-Series engine as their base engine named the single overhead cam ZC VTEC, but we would not get that little engine in the States. And of course, all variants of that B-Series got Honda's famous VTEC. The line of 4-bangers would be hooked to either a 4-speed automatic with a 2400 RPM torque converter, or a 5-speed close ratio manual. And of course, power is sent to the front wheels in traditional Honda fashion, but there was also all-wheel drive available in sedans. There were 6 total trims available for the 3rd generation Integra in the States. RS, LS, SE, GS, GSR, and the famous Type R. This particular 1994 is a GSR, the top step of the Integra ladder before the Type R would unseat it in 1997. The notable upgrade for the GSR would be the B18C1 engine, but there was also some extra goodies sprinkled on. A rear spoiler, 6-speaker stereo, power moonroof, and 195/55 VR15 tires on alloy wheels were standard. But there was also an additional leather package that included leather upholstery and a leather-wrapped steering wheel and shift knob. Ignoring this car's outside appearance, we'll get to that later, inside the 3rd generation Integra feels well-equipped and roomy for a 90s Japanese compact. Yeah, the plastics are hard in places, but it feels very solid despite the 350,000 miles that this car has experienced. Other than the obvious modifications, everything's intact and of working order. All the power windows work, the moonroof still works, heck, the original cigarette lighter is still hanging out in the center console. As well as the digital clock working on the dash. Usually by now these have long since broken. It's a testament to the build quality of 90s Honda. Despite the abuse that it's faced, it's still held up over time. Even with this being Acura's entry-level car in the States, Canada got rebadged Civics placed below the Integra in their lineup. The Integra was still assembled with the same passion and precision that its Big Brother legend was built with. Now that I've briefly touched upon it, like most Integras, this one has had some modifications. Now yes, the owner does admit that the exterior of this car is probably its weakest point. He purchased this car from a tuner shop who removed the drivetrain to install in a 2nd gen Integra, and they intended to throw the shell away. However, after the shop rolled the 2nd gen Integra, they then took the now modified engine and trans and reinstalled them back into this quote-unquote lowly sedan. The original B1Z1 received a bunch of work while it was out. Aftermarket intake manifold, cold air intake, bigger injectors, Honda tuning suite, all breathing out into a 4-to-1 header that leads to a 2.5-inch exhaust with no cat and MagnaFlow muffler. This Integra sits on Skunk 2 suspension with their Pro S2 coilovers and upper and lower control arms. Finally, there's a 12-pound flywheel, Stage 2 clutch, and K-tune adjustable short throw shifter. But at some point, while this car was getting stripped for its innards, it was painted in this rattle can black to just, makes it look a lot worse than it actually is. Yeah, it has some rust and dents, but the rattle can black just makes it look trashy, especially as the North Carolina sun has aged it. Me and also the owner both agree that, if they had kept the original dark green, this car would have looked much better. But, despite its look, you take it out on the road and this car comes alive. With all the modifications, this motor is happiest at higher RPMs for sure. Above 5K and the VTEC-bro kicks in. Country roads and rolling starts are this car's bread and butter. Yeah, the shifter bushings are a tad worn, so it did take a little bit of getting used to before I was shifting smoothly around Iredell County with ease. This car was an absolute hoot on country roads. The old B-Series revving with ease and the coilovers eating up the bumps. And the steering carving up the curves like a knife through butter. Despite its appearance, despite its age, the 3rd generation Acura Integra still stands tall. There's a reason Type R's demand insane money on the collector market. Even with all its miles, all its abuse, this GSR still put a smile on my face, and I'm glad Wookie got to save this one. Even through its flaws, this Integra proves why these cars are so coveted in the Radwood age. And that was a shame when the Integra was replaced with the RSX in 2002. Yeah, that car is still pretty good, but the RSX doesn't have a name like the Integra and just doesn't have the cachet that this car had. Acura was already deep into replacing all their named cars with alphanumerics, as Acura execs in the 90s had for some reason come to the conclusion that people were falling more in love with the Legend name than the Acura name, so that car became the 3.2 CL and the 3.2 RL, and it just, people don't really remember those cars nearly as good as they did the original Legend. Same thing with the Integra. The RSX eventually went away, and eventually Acura would come out with the ILX, but that car was just kind of meh. Acura had shifted their small car from being sporty to kind of premium-ish, but it just felt like more of a gussied up Honda Civic. Now, they've reintroduced the Integra, and yes, it's very clearly a Honda Civic underneath, but so is this. And yeah, people can hate on that car only being 4 doors all they want. Coupes have been dead for a long time, so 4 doors, you kind of have to get over it. And look, not all Integras were 2-door coupes. This is one right here. It's right here on your screen. Anyways, back to this car. To be honest, when I saw pictures of this car before filming, my expectations were pretty low. I'd never really driven an Integra in anger before. And this one looked rough on the outside. I mean, yeah, it is rough on the outside. But man, this car really surprised me once I got out on it during my test loop. It snuck up on me and it proved its worth. I get it now. If this one has 350,000 miles and a ton of abuse and it drives this well, how well does a mint one drive? That's the beauty of an Integra. That's the epitome of early 90s Japanese bubble economy car building. This car is so wonderfully engineered that even today it drives like a dream and puts a smile on a doubter's face. This is why well-kept Integras cost so much, because these cars are a blast. 1994 Acura Integra GSR. It greatly exceeded my expectations. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you once again for watching another episode of Wookie Drives. Huge shout out to Ryosuke of Hickory, North Carolina for letting me drive his recently purchased Integra GSR for this video. If you have a car or truck you'd like to see on the show and happen to be in the Charlotte or Mooresville, North Carolina area, submit your car to wookiedrives@gmail.com. That's right. Email a submission of your car to wookiedrives@gmail.com. That's wookiedrives@gmail.com. Don't forget to give the video a like, drop a comment with some feedback. Any sort of interaction with this video really helps small channels like mine grow in the algorithm. Share with all your Integra friends. And finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for more Wookie Drives like these. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.
If you were to line up, end to end, all the luxury sports sedans that come standard with a 170 horsepower engine, power windows, power door locks, power moonroof, plus both driver's and passenger side airbags for under $20,000, you'd have one. The all-new Acura Integra Sports Sedan. Car and Driver magazine recently named the Acura Integra GSR one of the 10 best cars of the year.